Good evening, everybody. Excuse my background. Still situated in my office. Don't judge me. But tonight I come before you with yet another great topic. I've settled my mind and I've done some things. And tonight we're going to talk about access. Um, you know, there are a lot of times you may feel like you're running out of energy. Um, and it's because you're feeling overwhelmed, right? Um, People pulling you left, people pulling you right, and you're using up so much energy, spending time with other people. Um, I was meditating before I came on, and I have some topics already lined up. And what I heard was, no, we need to talk about access. And they let me know that there's a lot of people who are watching or who will watch this in the future, um, where you need to start letting people go of your energy. Yeah, start letting people go for your energy. Um, because it's like a leech. If you've never seen a leech um, laps on and it holds and it literally sucks your blood. I call them aquatic mosquitoes because and you don't feel it, but you can see the blood. Um, but there are some of you who you're everywhere so much that a lot of people feel like they have free roam and free access to you, and you have to pull away. That's what the purpose of me time is. Me time is time that you set aside for yourself, to gather yourself. You can relax, you can go to sleep. Some people read and listen to some music. Some people meditate. Um, some people burn candles and oils or essential oils, just to change the aroma of the room. And, some people go for nature walks. Some people swim. Some people go to the gym as their me time, but you know, you have to unplug sometimes. You can't keep going on and on and on and on and on. We are not like the Energizer Bunny. We can't just keep going on and on and on without some sort of drainage happening. Your body is not a machine. Um, and I'm really being led to talk to a lot of you who may be living with HIV. Um, I have not brought that up in some time, but I mean, the acronym is HIV. So, there will always be some sort of a focus towards HIV. But for those of you with HIV, I feel like there are some people that may be watching and you're tired. Like you're doing everything that you can, but at the same time, you're trying to figure out what else is going on with your body. From what I know about some people that I have worked with in the past, is that there are a lot of people who don't have a lot of resources, and so they couch surf, meaning they sleep at this person's house for a time being, and then they go to someone else's house for a time being, and then they go to someone else for a time being. And you may not be living with HIV, but I know a lot of people in the community, so that's why I'm bringing that up. That do that because of the lack of resources, due to you know, some people are on disability and they can't make but so much. And if they go to work, they lose their disability. But at the same time, they have a medical background of not being able to fulfill certain job requirements. Let me put it that way. And so they feel like they're in this catch 22, which is already hectic, right? And then imagine being put into that predicament of not having stable housing because you don't make enough money. Um, Sidebar, this is why I do a lot dealing with housing and housing issues and how housing is a health concern. It is. How can you get proper rest if you don't know where you're going to lay your head, right? And there are sleep studies that talk about how sleep affects your weight, your heart rate, um, your mental health, everything. So sleep is important. And if you don't have a comfortable place to sleep, you're damaging so much more than just not getting enough rest. Um, but some of you have been going couch surfing and couch surfing and couch surfing so much, and it's not been peaceful because the houses that you've been going to have had, so much too much going on, a lot of drama going on, right? There's a lot of noise, unnecessary noise. There's a lot of unnecessary fights. And usually, which comes with that, is a lot of drinking and smoking and drug use. Let's just put it out there. I mean, it is what it is, right? And for some of you, your energy is so drained and you're trying to figure out why. And it's because you have to find a space where you can go and just be, where you can just get sweet, peaceful rest, where you can just get into a silent room and not hear anything. And I know in some places, um, some people go to the library to find solace, and if they get caught sleeping, they get asked to leave. I've actually seen that done in a few places. But while it's still warm, before it's cold, I would suggest walking to a park, going somewhere where there's not a lot of noise, or at least not a lot of, go to a place where a lot of people don't know you, right? Because if you go somewhere and you're out in public and you're like, oh, this is my me day, and then you see somebody that you know, and then you keep go further, and then you see somebody else that you know, and it's like cheers. Everybody knows your name. Everywhere you go, somebody knows you, right? Which shows how much of a good person that you are, right? So I mean, it's a good thing that people know you, but sometimes you have to pull away from people and have your time and space to preserve yourself. Um, Even Jesus pulled away from his disciples and from the crowd so he can rest, so he can find that peacefulness. Um, and he also didn't allow too much access to him as well. Like you just didn't walk up to, okay, now besides the woman with the issued blood, right? She came and she touched him, but she also faithfully touched him that the virtue went out. That is what the scripture says, correct? And so, but sometimes even before then, he didn't really, he was in the crowd, but he knew like how to navigate through the crowd. There's a scripture where Jesus was preaching out on a boat because he knew they're going to come and I'm going to need the time to pull away. And so even before, or even while he was on the boat, he was preaching and teaching and what have yous. And then it's like, okay, now we must go. We have to go to the other side of Jordan. We got some teaching to do over there, right? And during that time, it probably was quicker, um, as much as necessary in that during that time period for him to take donkey, horse, by foot, around, quick around trip. But no, let's go on the boat. Because on the boat, first of all, there's the water. Water is very peaceful. It's a very peaceful element. For those of you who have been on the boat, you know that if you sit still on the boat and the waves just rock you back and forth, that is relaxing. It's almost like you can get in a trance just from being on the boat. And I'm sure his disciples at that time knew, okay, when we get on this boat, we can't do a lot of talking because he needs his peace. He needs to hear from God. Um, which is another thing. So many people are praying to God, but they're not quieting themselves. Um, but on the flip side, if they're quiet, if they're quiet by nature, they are around a lot of people who are constantly pulling their attention. And whenever you do this, you're not in that quiet space because you have too much access to the outside world, and the outside world has too much access to you, pulling you away from what you need to do. And it's a distraction. Honestly, it's a spiritual distraction, it's a mental distraction, and it's almost like that. I was just about to go to sleep and so called me. Like I was literally in the bed under the covers, about to lay my head on the pillow, and bring, bring, bring. It's those type of moments, and it's like it's happening too frequently. It's happening too frequently for some of you, and you're so drained. I'm literally picking this up. It's almost like I'm experiencing it for you, honestly. Excuse me. But it's draining you, and you just and some people say, hey, take an energy drink, and hey, if you eat this, hey, if you take this vitamin, if you take this pill or what have you, and you still feel drained afterwards, and it's because it's more of a spiritual draining. And when your spirit is drained, it will affect you physically. That's why you have to tap out. Hey, don't call me, or put that phone on silent, right? That's why you have to tell your friends, hey, I'm going to go for a walk, I'll be back. And go for your walk, clear your head, listen to some soft sounding music, or just take that walk. Or even if it's I'll be back, you don't have to tell nobody where you're going. You don't have to take a long walk. You could be around the corner, go behind a bush, and just sit in quietness. There were so many times as a kid that I would go outside. I would just be uh, inspired, I guess is the word, to go outside and just go out in nature and take a nature walk. And sometimes I will go outside and I will find a tree, and whatever tree called me, I will sit underneath the tree and just sit for about 15-20 minutes. Just sit. If I had a dog with me, my dog came with me, and we just sat. The dog, walked around and did what she needed to do or he needed to do. And I just sat in the quietness. Sometimes I would close my eyes while I was sitting. Sometimes I would fall asleep. I'm not going to hold you. I would fall asleep. But not for like hours, just like for a few moments. Um, but just to be there in the quietness, get new scenery, and just recharge. And every time I come back, it's like I feel a refreshing. Uh, it's almost like a spiritual bath. Like you go somewhere and your spirit feels fresh, like your spirit just went through the shower, went came out of the shower, excuse me. And if you know anything about coming out of a hot fresh shower, it said you feel so good and so relaxed, and it's like, okay, I'm back. Let's do this. Let's get ready. Let's get ready to do, XYZ. I'm ready now. I'm up. I got the energy. And sometimes that's what you need to do, is just go out and allow your spirit to get this spiritual cleansing and rejuvenation. And sometimes it could also be that while you're doing that, whatever questions that you have will get answered in that quiet time, because you quieted your mind, you quieted your spirit, and now God is able to talk to you. Now God is able to drop in that answer that you need, and because you do it, you get so quiet. You get the answer. Oh, that's what I need to do. That's who I should call. That's who I should contact. This is what I need to look up. And it'll steer you in the right direction. It'll ease whatever that trouble, I don't want to say troublesome mind, but whatever that question is that you have, like, when is this going to be over, or things like that. Um, that's when you get that answer that you've been seeking for that problem to be over. But you have to quiet yourself. And another thing about access is that sometimes you have people that pretend to be your friend, smile in your face, give you hugs, show you love in front of people. And when they go home or when they're by themselves, they're sitting there like, I can't stand that person. And what they do is, when they do that, is when they come and every time they touch you, they rub that spirit, that jealous or hatred, whatever that spirit that's operating in on them, it it gets on you, and it drains you. It saps you out a little bit. Um, and that's why, as a child, I would watch so many preachers, so many prophets and prophetess come through the church. And I would look at them and I would almost be afraid to touch them, to hug them. Um, and it wasn't because, well, part of me was scared because I didn't know. I'm like, this person just delivered so many messages to people, personalized, and they don't know these people. Like, first of all, I was fascinated, but I was scared at the same time, because I'm like, what do you see about me? Like, I don't want you to tell me any bad news. Because some people did give warnings. Let's have a real conversation. People would get warnings. If you don't stop this in such an X amount of days, you will die. If you don't change your habits, this is going to happen. Like, you're going to lose a leg, you're going to lose a limb or something. What are you people doing? Like, chill it. I like you. I want to see you the next time I come. But I can't if you not doing what you're supposed to do. But that's another topic. But at the same time, I would also see my mom would also have that conversation with me about, when the spirit get on people heavily, this, although it's a euphoria, and you feel like you have this energy, at the same time, when you're pouring into people, as they were praying and prophesying over people and speaking over people, they were releasing that energy, right? And so now there's a depletion of the energy, and that's what happens. That's the type of situation when you're hanging around too many people. If they don't have your good intentions toward you, and you're hanging around them and you having conversations and you dapping them up and loving on them, you're giving them energy for them to say, I don't like that person. And so every time they come around you, that's, hey, how you doing? It's so good to see you. And you hug them and everything, and all the while they are draining the energy, your life, right out from under you within that hug. you know and I have some friends that they're like, I'm not a hugger, I'll dap you up. And I hugged a friend once, and she was like, You must know I must really trust and love you. She said, because I don't give hugs. I don't do hugs, even in my own family. And I was like, well, you don't have nothing to worry about for me, because girl, I'm here for you. And I'm always happy to and excited to see my friends, right? But and at the same time, you have those that may not necessarily be draining you in an ill will or evil type of way, but they may just love to hear you talk or come in your presence and ask you for advice and ask you for your opinions on things. And as you're doing that, you're giving them instruction. And oftentimes that's when God is using you the most. And when you're releasing whatever you the download that you're getting, sometimes you're like, I don't even know why I'm about to say this, or I don't know why this thought came in my mind, but anyway, I'm gonna tell it to you anyway, and da 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 da. That's because God is literally using your story, the words that are coming out your mouth, for somebody else to get their deliverance, to get their freedom, which is the same thing, um, to get peace of mind, to feel loved, to answer the question that they have for God. You never know. And so you're being drained. But whenever you get a chance to sit by yourself, that's God's chance to love on you and say, "Come here, my child. Let me love on you a little bit. Let me energize you some more, because you've been doing my work, or you've been around people so much and they've been draining you, and let me love on you. Let me give you that peace of mind. Let me give you that peace of body and heart and spirit. Let me give you a refreshing." And then you walk back and you like, I feel pretty good. Yeah, you feel pretty good because you are now being restored from what you have been putting out. And just like I've been talking about boundaries, and I've been talking about, I guess you would say, primarily emotional boundaries. It's the same thing for physical. You need your physical boundaries. You need to say, hey, there's going to be some times when I'm going to walk off and I'm going to need some space to myself. And I'm okay. I just need the space to myself. Like I told some friends, I said, if I get very frustrated, let me walk. I'll be fine. Just let me walk. I'll gather myself, and when I come back, I'll be in a different headspace. And it's because you also have to know your limitations too, right? Because even if you set boundaries for other people, you have to know your own boundaries for yourself. You have to know when you say, just like when I have some friends that say, oh, I know my drinking level. I know when I've had too much to drink, I need to cut myself off. Right. In the same family. You have to know when you need to cut yourself off. You have to know when it's okay. I've spent too much time on this computer. I spent too much time on my phone. I spent too much time eating out. I spent too much time spending money. And I spent too much time working, because you can overwork yourself, and that also drains you. That also drains you. You have to know when. Can you come for this meeting? No, let's schedule it for next week. Or let's schedule it 2 weeks from now, because I'm pretty booked. You know, um, and if you have plans and say, oh, I'm sorry, I can't meet at this time. Um, I have other obligations at this time, because you're obligated to take care of yourself, because who else is going to take care of you, right? And so when you have these access points, no matter how the access is coming through, whether it's an email, a phone call, or actual physical visitation, you have to make sure that you give yourself boundaries for when you're going to respond and answer, and also um, how you're going to receive. Are we seeing people today? It's a no. Okay. Hey, I was just thinking about you. Mind if I stop through? No, not today. Let's schedule for another day. Do I feel like going outside my house today? No, I think it's an indoors type of day. I may open the window, get some fresh air, may walk my dog, but that's about it. That's as far as outside as I will go. You know, you have to give yourself these invitations. Restoration brings healing, and a healed heart gives good direction. That's what I just heard. Because when you're restored, you're healed. Your body is healed, and you're able to think clearly. You're able to well move clearly. You're able because you'll be moving the way you're supposed to move. It's just like how many times have we seen a sports figure make that wrong step and they fracture a bone or break a bone or what is it? Pull a hamstring, and it's because they made the wrong move. And so when you have these directions, you're literally guided, and you're literally getting instructions and directions from God. And God's going to teach you how to move. That's why it's so important to have that relationship with God too. Because whenever you do pull away, and God can say, finally, we got some time together. Finally, you're allowing me to talk to you, to pour back into you. It all works together hand in hand. And so tonight, I'm not going to be before you long. This is one of the shorter ones. But be mindful of who has access to you. Be mindful of how much you give access to people. And make sure you set boundaries for people who want to have or wish to pull access from you. This baby, this ain't the all access card. You listen, you can't have my life 24/7. You are not Big Brother, and I'm not in this house where you can see my every move. No. If so, then baby, I need you to pay me $500 at the end of this at the end of 60 days, or 5,000, however much they get these days. Um, and I doubt that they would want to do that. I'm sorry. I just thought about something I heard a therapist say recently, and it's like, pay me for my time. You want my time? Okay, time is precious. Time is money. Okay, because when it's time for me to make money and you have drained me, then I got to go to the other place where they're draining me too. Then baby, I'm all spent out for me. So both all have to pay me for my time. Okay, that's what you have to. That's the mindset you have to get into. How is this conversation benefiting me? Right. How are you constantly draining me, helping me? Because some people just hate to be alone. Some people just hate to realize that it's okay to not be okay. But I'm not your therapist, and I must pull away. um, I used to have so many friends. I used to tell people I thought about changing my major to being a therapist, and it's like, nope, that's not your forte. That's not what I called you to do. Point them in the right direction. But yeah. So make sure you monitor how much access you're giving to people and how much you're giving access to people. I'm hearing, I know it's about the end, But I'm literally hearing some people, that's how some people get paranoid. Some causes of paranoia is because they have given so much access to people that it starts to play tricks on your mind, and you're thinking, oh, if I could just find a place to quiet down, but I keep hearing all the noises in my head, and it's really other people's traumas that's playing in your head. So again, like for instance, if you're one of the people that has couch surfed, right, and you stay at one friend's house, and they're constantly fighting, bickering and fighting, that's it has attached itself to you. It's in your memory bank. You remember those things because maybe you experienced it as a child and now it's coming back up again, right? Then you go to somebody else's house. They're not fighting, but outside there's a lot of shooting. And it's reminding you of the time when one of your closest friends or one of your family members got killed by a stray bullet. And it's traumatizing to you. It's in your head. And so it's like, ooh, whew, I'm at this person's house, but I never know how they're gonna be acting when they come in. Oh, it's a good day. They walking soft. Okay. And then the next day, oh, they're walking heavy. Let me stay in my corner. I'm not gonna say nothing till they answer. What type of living is that? You're literally taking on all of this stuff and it's causing you to be paranoid. But if you pull away and reset your mind, reset your thoughts, it's good. And of course, like I always push, it's okay to see a therapist. It really is. I promise you it is. Just like you could pick up that cigarette and light that can and light that cigarette and puff, puff, puff and think about this problem. And that's all you're doing is thinking about the problem, but not thinking about the solution to the problem. You can easily go see this therapist and talk it out so the therapist can give you some points, some other ways of looking at the situation, or at least some type of solution so that you can think about, oh, as she gave me three solutions and I can choose and apply one of those three solutions to my right now problem. That's what therapists do. Stop living in fear. Like I said, I believe it was my last message. Stop living in fear. Go ahead and do what you're supposed to do for you. But again, monitor your access and start living a peaceful life. You all be blessed and have a good night.